Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Sprouts Weekly Live. Super excited to have Marija along with us to talk about Customer Success Framework, Accelerate ARR for Early Stage. Marija, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really glad to be here.
Likewise. So a quick intro on my side. I'm Avi. I'm the co-founder at Sprouts. We are an AI-powered go-to-market intelligence platform, which help companies to ramp up their demand generation efforts. And Marija, thrilled to have you on the show. Just to give a quick intro about Marija, she's an influential leader in customer success, landscape, and highly respected customer strategist and coach. So Marija, looking forward to learn a lot. She has been named as one of the top 100 CS strategists 3 times in a row, right? So that's a big one. And she was brains behind Women in Customer Success podcast. So Marija, welcome on board, and looking forward to learn from you on how to run a customer success function and take away a lot of learnings from your experience. Thank you so much again to join us on this podcast. So Marija, so why don't we quickly dive into the questions which we have. There are many to cover, so I hope that's okay if I directly dive into the questions. Yeah.
Of
So
course.
you had an amazing journey where you have been recognized as top 100 CS strategist, which is like 3 times in a row, and have founded Women in Customer Success. First of all, congrats. That's super
Thank you.
amazing. Can you tell us a bit more about your professional journey? How did you end up there, like past to present? Would love to understand your journey in that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking. I hope I can be a really quick one with this. By background, I'm a musician. That's what I studied. That was my educational background. And then at some point, I decided to go into business because I was doing some research in terms of arts education and business. And I realized, well, I don't have any business experience. So how can I even do this research without knowing what's going on in the business? And that's how I basically made a shift. And I entered a big payroll company in a project management department. And just a few months after, I read somewhere a name, Customer Success Manager. And when I started reading the job description, I just knew that was going to be my career. And a year after, I managed to land myself the first role as a CSM, and everything starting from there. I was very much aware that I didn't have the business background, so I was always just interested in learning and getting certifications and just getting as many information and learnings that I could about customer success. And then from an individual contributor, I progressed to a director of customer success within 4 years in different companies. Managed to lead one of the global teams in the hypergrowth startups, and just had loads of opportunities to work with some very, very amazing people and learn from them. And then last year, I decided to just go out of kind of startup world and corporate world and have my own consultancy. And now I'm a fractional leader. So now I help mostly early stage companies set up their customer success functions and just do customer success on a fractional basis. That's in short.
Awesome. From a musician to business to customer success leader and doing own startup, this is pretty unique, Marija. So being a fractional CS leader, right? You have worked with several SaaS startups. I'm pretty sure you have consulted them in how to set up their customer success motion and everything. What specific strategies have you found most effective, especially in accelerating ARR for early stage SaaS companies? Can you talk more about it, Marija, and help us understand how to go about it?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, when I come on board for early stage startups, they typically don't have a customer success function, but very often they have a few people who might be doing some kind of customer facing role already. And that's when they start realizing, oh, well, now we need to be a bit more serious in trying to understand what is the function and what do we need. So what I have seen so far, very often, most of those startups are very reactive. They are just reacting to what is happening with customers, whether they need help with onboarding, whether they need most probably technical support, and they start addressing that. But in order to start accelerating ARR, we kind of very quickly need to turn the reactive mode into as proactive as we possibly could. In some of my examples, I would firstly go and have a look at the onboarding process so we can make it really efficient. Why? Because sometimes all the resources that companies have in customer success or in customer facing roles would go into onboarding and support. So firstly, making it efficient. And what does it mean? Making it scale and available to scale. In one of the latest customers that I had with, it was a med tech company actually. They just had a CSM working constantly one-to-one with new customers, meaning they would deliver every single training customer for onboarding, for how to use the product. They would need to get in touch with customers and suggest the time and date. So there was just so many communication for any of the few pieces of training for customers, when in essence, that training could have been delivered by anyone. It could have been delivered through just videos, because learning people or teaching people how to use a platform is more or less the same for everybody. So we just revamped that whole onboarding process to make it firstly on demand. So it's most of the short videos are available online, mostly in the self-service mode, so that can straight away accelerate that onboarding. And then we also created few like customer cohorts. So for example, we made online videos available, live trainings available every 2 weeks, meaning whenever customers join the company, they can have the option to join those trainings with other customers, meaning they can straight away start learning from others. So just we made that whole onboarding process much more efficient, meaning that with one same resource, they can do so much more, they can cover so many more customers, and they don't need to hire new resources at that time. So that was the idea, to kind of free up some of the CS time for those activities that have to happen, so they can start having a bit more time for proactive outreach. We know from the research that those first 30, 60, and 90 days that we call onboarding is crucial for customers to even expand later on. Very often they expand within the first 90 days. So it is important to start doing that process as seamless as possible. So that was my idea, always starting with the onboarding and checking how that is working. And then we start having some proactive outreach motions for the accelerating ARR. What does it mean in practice? Checking very much the product data, everything that's available, how customers are using the platform, where they already see some paywalls. So when lots of customers or lots of users are reaching that limit, meaning we can start having some of the proactive campaigns and asking those customers if they need more, and starting already identifying new opportunities within the first 90 days, but later on as well. So yeah, from my end, it has to start from onboarding, making that as quick as efficient, so customer sees the first time to value very, very quickly. And then we do the proactive outreach based on the data from product.
Got it. This is super helpful, Marija. Just a quick follow on to that. You talked about being very proactive and look at customer usage data, and based on that do a proactive outreach. Can you give me like a couple of examples on a real life example, saying that hey, this should be a multi-touch point outreach that you should do for a customer. It should be like involving email or voice. What kind of touch point it should be and how that should look like? Can you give us like a few examples?
Now, obviously, it very much depends based on the product. In few of my examples, let's say custom field is something that lots of customers may use, some may not. But if the company's, in this particular case, the company's objective was, let's have more and more users using our custom fields, meaning as soon as you have few of the teams or few of the users using custom fields, you can already have a sequence of 3 or 4 emails, which would be educational. Oh, we noticed that you're using this. Did you know that, XYZ customer, for example, increased their productivity by, you put the number there because they used this particular custom fields, meaning that can help you as well. So you start creating some of the content. I would say typically they are emails. They are probably sequences of 3 emails. And you just start educating customers, like what can happen or what is the evidence that some other customers were already successful. So Therefore, you can start using that feature as well. That is very much based on some of the feature if you have the access to that data within the product. But what I have seen working really well is the type of content that you're sending out that really resonates is exactly what other customers are doing. Oh, the similar customers to you are using XYZ. Same analogy, almost like Netflix, or Amazon. Customers who bought this bought also something else. And of course, we don't have that sophisticated technology yet to do exactly personalized like that. But as soon as you start communicating in a way that others have been successful with this, but now you used only, first out of those few features, that really helps them understand the value a bit more, and it's almost creating that FOMO effect. And of course, very often that depends on the subject line in the email. What are you choosing? How do you choose that messaging? So it can really spark their attention. But I would say those are the email sequences mostly. We would not go in this way to, messaging or LinkedIn, for example, but emails and in-app messaging, of course,
in-app messaging.
That works in parallel. Yeah.
Got it. This is helpful. So Marija, follow on to that, right? Like taking a step back, there is a go-to-market team which helps you generate pipeline, and then there's a sales team which close the deal and brings revenue to the company, and then there's a customer success team who helps in retention and also to expand customer revenue, right? Like broadly speaking, this is how the motion is divided. How do you, in your experience, how do you feel that your customer success team is aligned with broader go-to-market strategies to ensure cohesive and effective execution, right? Like what exactly on a broad level, and if you can, slightly go deeper and give us some examples, that would be great.
On a very high level, obviously that very much depends on the leadership. So I have seen when you have, let's say, a head of that company who is really attuned with everything, things work really well. What does it mean? On very regular basis, I, as a customer success leader, would meet with other leaders and with, the leader above, whether that is head of, let's say, Holimi or a company, and we would review the metrics. For me, that's incredibly important because you already said who has each role, and those roles means that each of those departments have their own metrics. And then when we come together, we are then, like in one of my companies, we created like so-called customer council, meaning we would then review on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis all the metrics that are related to the customer, meaning loads of those metrics are owned by customer success, but then some will be owned by demand generation and marketing, some will be owned by sales as well, but we are coming together and keep each other accountable, meaning we review the metrics, and when you review the metric, you are keeping kind of few of the ones that are really outliers, right? When everything seems to be okay, you don't discuss that, you discuss the outliers and immediately strategizing, okay, what are the few actions we can do in the next week to try to remedy that? And then you create the action, you test it, and then review it again. So that's something that I have seen works really well when the leadership is aligned, that is creating aligned leadership when you are really meeting properly, who owns which metrics. But what I will also say, when we speak about alignment, sometimes there could be sometimes frustrations or almost thinking, who owns what, which is not good. I would give everybody a benefit of the doubt. I can see that people in general want to work really well together. They want to. Very often, technology is a problem, and we see how all of those different teams can work in different tools, or even if it is CRM, people are using differently, and very often like that disconnect between data and what happens next provides like the lack of visibility, and that's where frustrations can come up. It's typically on that operational level, not on the people level. People are okay. So how to make it much more effective? Well, try to make as less tools actually as possible sometimes, or making sure that those tools speak to each other, that they're aligned, and that all of those teams can have some visibility. So as soon as you have transparency, that they don't need to ask you for every single detail, and that data is cohesive enough, at least it makes everybody's lives much easier. So as much as we all like different tools, that is great, but just make sure that they are connected with each other so that people know even how to use it and where to find the relevant information.
Yeah. Talking about the ownership part, like who is owning the see, so there is one part which is like average contract value, where you have to, the customer is signed and there is an average contract value which is assigned to it. And then it comes into the customer success bucket, and they are responsible to increase this average contract value, right? Like, in your experience, who should own the customer expansion part? Is it like mostly sales or customer success? By the way, where I'm coming from is because I've seen in many organizations, they behave they have a different structure, right? Like in many orgs, I have seen that even the expansion is owned by sales. They have like sales expansion team. CS just owns the retention part. So just wanted to understand, what do you recommend in terms of who should own this expansion part, like increasing average contract value of a customer once they are onboarded?
That is not only a great question, it's in every conversation that I'm having with CS leaders, that is the question that always comes up, and we always see how everybody are doing it differently, which is a bit strange when you are trying to get some standardization. But very often it does depend heavily on the company, on the product, how also complex is the product, and how many people post-sales are even involved with the product. And also it just depends on the maturity of organization as well. So when I work a lot with early stage startups, like very often those teams are very small in general. Sometimes, customer success handles everything really just because they are still small in numbers.
Yep.
I also have seen that very often customer success would own that retention part, and then sales would own more of the expansion. However, I do think that customer success team is best positioned to help customer realize the value and the impact, and then the recurring impact brings that recurring revenue. So I believe CS department is best positioned to sell and position different solutions to the customer. And I would always advocate that even for customers, it's better to have one single person that they are dealing with for everything whenever that's possible. However, how operationally it works, whether CS, just qualify those opportunities and pass it on to sales to close, or whether they are closing it, I actually think that is less relevant, because at the end of the day, it will depend also on how the team is structured and what is the compensation. And I say it's less relevant simply because I have seen like hundreds of different scenarios, how it can all work on different levels, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as every team really knows what are they responsible for. But what I really believe again is like the CS team could easily be responsible for expansion as well, because it comes naturally for them. Although historically, I know very often they feel we are not selling, we shouldn't be, compromising relationship. But actually, at the end of the day, it's not compromising relationship. Customer, when they see the value, they want more of it. They do want more services related to it. They do want more of the products because they see things are going well. So just suggesting it, it's not a big deal. It is really very, very well. It's just really good to be positioned to put those services across. Customers will not think that you are, compromising relationship just because you're offering something extra. They will appreciate it. They actually want it from customer success managers.
That's a very, very valid point. Marija, just out of curiosity, right? Would love to understand your thoughts on to be a very rock star A player in the CS journey. What kind of skill set a CS person should have, right? Like, I know people talk about empathy. People talk about, hey, you should build a very solid relationships. You should be really good in your product knowledge. But in the order of priority, right? Like, what are the top three skills? Let's say Avinash today have to be a CSM. What are the top three skills he should have to be a rockstar CSM?
I'll give you a family of skills. Firstly,
Okay.
Consultative skills,
Okay.
then commercial skills, and then third, well, it's not actually third, but it's the people skills, the soft skills. For CSMs, I strongly believe consultative skills definitely most critical, because you have to be able to understand customers' business and what is it that they are trying to achieve and how your product fits into it, how you can really help them, not only one department but the whole company as a whole. So you need to be skilled to ask proper question and continuously learn about those customers. Commercial skills, because yes, you want to understand financially your customers and how they serve their customers, all about their businesses and what's happening in their ecosystem, but also commercially oriented, you need to be able to spot those opportunities. Like when customers are saying something, when you're seeing transcripts of their calls, you need to be able to spot when they're asking for more, when they are suggesting that they may have new people joining them, those are new licenses, or when they are speaking about some problems or additional problems, that you can help them with your solution. So you need to be able to kind of pick up those clues and just recognize those commercial opportunities. And then lastly, like people skills, obviously that relationship building, the empathy, all of that is incredibly important. And that, everybody who are dealing with customers should have those skills, definitely not only customer success managers.
Love the framework: consultative, commercial, and then people skills to be a successful CS. Awesome. As per you, Mario, what are the key KPIs which determines, okay, if you're performing really well, which determines success metrics for the CS team, which one should follow? Can you also talk about what are those in early stage and late stage companies? Like, does it change? I'm pretty sure in early stage, something like product adoption and usage takes a front seat rather than NRR, because they are slightly building the product and everything. So can you share your thoughts in terms of what are the key KPIs which a CS team member should look after?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in early stage, sometimes it's almost tricky, because there's a time when they are even developing the metrics, and very often they just don't simply have lots of available metrics. So as you said, every metrics that is product related, such as product adoption or usage, or adoption of particular features, or the time spent in the product, those are some indicators that can help at least determine a little bit of a health of the customer. So that's what I've seen now. Some of the early stage companies do follow all the product metrics. Then CSAT and NPS, this is tricky. I wouldn't always consider that as being some of the main metrics, but it seems that in early stages, companies are just trying to, get more and more feedback from their customers. So I understand it makes sense to, ask almost CSAT after every single interaction that they had, just to be aware of, how customer sentiment is towards them. But then once once company matures a bit more, those metrics such as, GRR and NRR are of course becoming prevalent, just because those are the metrics that the business is very much looking forward to. Those are the metrics that they can start influencing and really looking from month to month. And also in early stage, I have seen that companies are already tracking the churn. So because they can track it on either annual or monthly basis. But a good thing, I see that it's not always up to customer success. Like, they do recognize as a company that churn is a company-wide metrics. And of course, it can never be just customer success, especially in early stages. Like, the product is huge part of somebody's experience, whether they will stay or they will churn. So it's not up to CSMs only. But yeah, those are some metrics that I typically find. And later on, when companies mature, like, there are so many other more sophisticated metrics, such as customer engagement metrics. Like, I like that one, just to understand more of how they're engaging with the product, but also with the wider ecosystem, like with some of your events and some of the other customers. So those are really nice metrics to track. But when you're starting out very early on, you're happy to have some of the metrics, and those will mostly be product that you are just trying to utilize as much as you can, really.
Got it. And Maria, a follow-on to that, a very tactical kind of a question. Obviously, CS is a very specialist kind of a role. If let's say there is an early stage startup, at what stage of early stage startup should a company hire their first CSM? I know, like, initially founders own it, and then few of the cases product managers own it, and then there are like founding members who owns the customer success. But at what stage you recommend that a company should look after hiring their first specialist CSM who knows about, hey, this is what I wanted to drive, NRR, GRR, product usage, and all of these matrices?
Oh, that's interesting. As sooner the better. But before stage A, for sure, if we are
Okay.
talking about like the stage, that would be a good time to just start thinking more broadly about what is happening with the department, and that is a really good starting point for creating a customer success function. Very often there, as you said, there will already be some people looking after the product and support and helping our customers, but in a strategic way, pre-series A, series A, absolutely, of course. But more and more we're seeing customers that are PLG, like product-led growth. So
Yep.
there might be a little bit more like they don't feel always that they need to have some of those resources, especially sales, because our product should be doing it all. But even in that case, like definitely you will have support very early on, and
Yep.
as soon as you have support, very soon there will be a time to form customer success department, because from all the reactive stuff, which is good, you want to start thinking into proactive. So I don't know if you're interested more in ARR, but from definitely even 5 million ARR, like you do want to start having like proper customer success early function.
Got it. Got it. Marija, you have been coach, and you have helped multiple companies to set up their CS function. Came across this very interesting course which you have launched recently, which is the Revenue CSM, unlocking new revenue stream and transforming your customer success into growth engine. Love the topic. Could you elaborate on why transformation is crucial for customer success teams and provide a brief outline of how executives can begin to implement these strategies? Like how should we go about it? First of all, how did you come about this title, and then this course? Would love to know more about it. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah, it was mostly based on my conversations with leaders throughout last years, when there just seemed to be that notion that everybody's teams now suddenly have to become commercial customer success, versus so many CSMs team always thought, well, we are just here for the relationship. And now suddenly they felt, especially after the layoffs, they felt like, oh, now we're getting targets, now we're getting quotas. We never sign up for that. So I want to firstly debug those myths. Like there are just loads of myths about selling. So it all starts with the mindset. Something that I already started talking about is
Yeah.
how CS teams are incredibly well positioned to sell. So they
Yes.
have to know that, they have to understand it. Then they are constantly selling, even if they don't want to speak about it. But just getting customer to come on a call, it is a huge sell, because simply I think we have been taking it for granted that customers just show up and talk to us, but that is not the case. More and more CS teams are struggling getting customers on call, simply because, well, they have to see the value of it. So just getting them to be engaged. And then we are going much more practical into really creating or accumulating business acumen, consultative and commercial skills. So that is coming from there as well. And how you can really approach, like, how can CSMs really start developing those skills in order to generate more revenue? And they do generate it by seeing more opportunities, by being there in front of customers and understanding them more. So it's like the whole journey of changing the mindset, which is really important, but also equipping them with the skills that are really necessary to understand and spot opportunities to be able to generate more revenue for their business. And then ultimately it's generating more income for themselves, which also impacts their personal brands. It's a little bit of a mindset journey that ends with increasing their personal brand.
Completely agree on that point. So Maria, can you tell us what are the top 2 to 3 challenges which CSM faces today when they are on the job and facing customers? Like top 3 challenges which are frequently faced by customer success managers. Uh, yeah.
Oh gosh, there are many. uh,
But the top three ones, which are like very
yeah.
common, and especially when they are implementing the GTM, go to market, like doing then upsell, cross sell, and those kind of things. Is it like tooling is a challenge, or learnability, or coaching? There are many which comes in my mind. Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, sometimes biggest challenge is really, as you mentioned, is the coaching challenge when CSMs feel that they are not equipped enough for all the new demands, and that's really fair, because very often they just needed to be firstly product specialists and know all about a product, and then now suddenly they need to start selling or negotiating, which they feel that they don't have enough skills, and that's just very fair, or they don't even like having those conversations. So that's again additional challenge, and we see that some CSMs are like leaving their positions because of that. So the challenge is like skill set, and how to almost start incorporating those conversations into their typical engagement with customers. Then I see it being a challenge really getting unresponsive customers. I know it again depends on the company and the product and how what was the previous engagement, but it's more and more the case that CSMs are putting so much time and effort to get to talk to customers that don't want to talk to them really. And then the third one would be really product. very often
Yeah.
CSMs are not enabled enough to help customers when they have trouble straight away on a call. And I'm not thinking in like support or troubleshooting way, but very often we see that CSMs just don't have that knowledge to provide that instant and immediate value
Yeah.
to customers. Rather, they need to go internally and ask for different opinions, and all of that is fair, and it's based on historically how they were taught as a department, but that is creating increasingly more frustrations for customers, just going to so many different people to get an answer into the question that is not support related question. It's more of like use case and how they do something, and then when CSMs don't know how to help them, the trust is coming down as well. So
Yeah.
that's definitely the big one.
Got it. Got it. And Maria, we are almost about time, slightly overran instead. But one last question. This is my favorite one. Can you tell us more about women in customer success community? How has it
Oh,
evolved since its inception, and what impact has it had on the customer success industry?
Oh, well, thank you for question. It has been 4 years since I started the podcast, and I started the podcast, Women in Customer Success podcast, because I have seen that there were no many women in the
Mhm.
industry. I didn't know of many women that could be my role models, and I saw many stats about the gender inequality in customer success. So that's why I created a podcast, to create a platform for women to share their stories and successes and their career journeys. The impact that is already in the industry has been really huge, I believe. There are so many more different communities, also women related and like wider gender specific related for customer success professionals. But definitely we see more and more female speakers at conferences, at podcasts, at webinars, so much more than when I started, and I haven't seen almost any. I saw only panels full of men. So
Yep.
definitely the exposure and awareness is there, but also now it involves in the whole kind of career hub, where we are offering at the moment some courses and just
Awesome.
community related events and masterclasses.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria, for taking our time and talking to us. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and taking away a lot of learnings, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to implement at Sprouts, so that our customer success team grows really, really fast and better. Thank you so much for taking our time. Loved the interaction.
Thank you, Avi. Thanks for having me.